Georgia governor blames Biden after woman allegedly killed by undocumented immigrants. So the undocumented immigrant, this is the story that I think chatters were talking about. An undocumented immigrant killed a woman in Georgia. So now this singular anecdote is going to be a perfect way to reaffirm the narrative that undocumented immigrants are actually a danger. It's a matter of national security. This, of course, happens from time to time. Undocumented migrants have done crimes in this country, violent crimes, as a matter of fact. What you have to look at is not singular anecdotes, but instead the actual data. Okay? Undocumented immigrants, by and large, per capita, cause less crime than natural-born U.S. citizens. This is a fact. Singling out one of those instances is no different than acting like it's always trans people that are doing mass shootings. We live in the United States of America, where, yes, everyone has a gun, including trans people. But if you look at the actual data overall, definitely not trans people that are doing a shit ton of the mass shootings, okay?
I don't think
this happens to every marginalized identity and every marginalized group. It does not matter. I don't mean, by the way, in totality. I mean per capita.
Of a 22-year-old nursing student in Georgia, Laken Riley, allegedly killed by a migrant. Governor Brian Kemp is now blaming the White House over its border policy. Our senior national correspondent Steve Osunsami is in Athens, Georgia, with more. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning to you, Robin. Authorities say that this young woman died of blunt force trauma and say that the man they have in custody used an object to kill her. Federal immigration authorities have now issued what's called a detainer for this murder suspect, which, had they done earlier, would have kept him from being released after his other arrests.
Students at the University of Georgia came together to say good things and to say goodbye to 22-year-old Laken Hope Riley.
It is so obvious to me why it feels so dark right now, and that is because we lost one of the brightest lights that there's ever been.
Devastating. A devastating situation. Like an innocent life taken, and then immediately everyone fucking turning around and being like, well, her memory is actually really valuable for us. We are going to cut propaganda towards like millions of people living on U.S. soil. It's nuts.
The nursing student from a school nearby was killed on the UGA campus while she was out jogging last week, and her murder has become a case in point in the debate over immigration in America. Police say that her alleged killer is this man, 26-year-old Jose Antonio Ibarra. He's from Venezuela, and according to federal officials, was let go after he was arrested for unlawfully entering the country near El Paso, Texas, a year and a half ago. Georgia's governor is demanding answers from President Biden and his immigration authorities.
Laken's death is a direct result of failed policies on the federal level and an unwillingness by this White House to secure the southern border.
Authorities believe Ibarra illegally entered the U.S. in 2022 and has several run-ins with law enforcement since then, but was paroled or released before customs enforcement agents could step in. His brother, who was also arrested for allegedly carrying a fake green card, was also arrested before by local authorities and released.
That competing trip that President Biden and former President Trump are taking to the U.S. southern border this week really matters to many people, of course, watching this case and to voters this election season. George.
Hi, everyone. George.
OOTL, would this even be a national story if the suspect wasn't illegal? No, of course not. What are you talking about? Like, this does not take away from the devastation, but it absolutely would not make it to national news at all if it wasn't an undocumented migrant. Even an undocumented migrant under other circumstances doing a murder would not make it to liberal side of the mainstream news. Right now, the reason why this is making its rounds through the media cycle is because I disagree. It was covered by several national outlets before they even caught the guy. Yeah, I think it's because, well, yeah, it's a college student getting brutally murdered by someone with, as far as we understand, no motivation that we know of. However, having said that, that kind of stuff usually makes its way, because a college student, that kind of stuff makes its way into local news. Sometimes it'll get picked up. Sometimes it'll get picked up by national news. But I do think that this is like especially important to cover right now, or especially like the media is especially more interested in covering it right now, specifically because it's happening at a time of the even the Democratic Party basically saying that immigration is a national security concern. Immigration is a security concern. It's also fucked up because it directly claims, or I guess like it plays a role in the Trumpian argument, which is that undocumented immigrants are actually taking advantage of the catch and release policy, even though 98% of those who are apprehended at the border after crossing over to legally seek asylum, and Venezuelans have TPS, temporary protected status, by the way, for political reasons, they attend their court cases to continue legally seeking asylum. So this plays that other role of like, well, this person was apprehended at the border and was allowed to roam free inside of the United States of America. So it's like doubly destructive for the way that migrants are perceived in general. Story hit close to home for me. It not only took place on my backyard, but it took place where my sister goes to school. One of my friend's best friends even knew Lakin, had nothing but good things to say about her. We were all scared shitless for a few days further. This happened a day after a young man killed himself in his dorm. Just a rough week for Georgia. Fuck Brian Kemp. Yeah, Brian Kemp is a genuine piece of shit. Guys, there are, of course, going to be people that do crimes in the millions of people that come over the border. But to present undocumented, like to present this as a different type of murder because it's done by an undocumented immigrant, as though like this the way to stop murder in this country is by shutting off immigration or making more restrictive immigration policies, is ridiculous. It's just pure politics. That's it. It's also against the like the narrative is a good one to write for the media, but it is completely devoid of any sort of factual analysis. This is in line with what Trump said, new type of crime being illegal immigrant crime. Yeah. Especially considering that the stats show that undocumented immigrants are responsible for less crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens. So it is a way to not look at the empirical evidence and instead look at anecdotes that are supposed to create an impassioned response, understandably.